We're already in Okinawa. You can go home." When I called my boss, I got an unbelievable response. We were supposed to go on an overseas company trip starting today, but when I arrived at the airport at the meeting time, nobody was there. Wondering if I made a mistake, I checked the itinerary, but I hadn't gotten the meeting time or place wrong. In my frustration, I called my boss and got that unbelievable response. "What's this all about?" "Oh, maybe you misunderstood something." My boss says this and bursts into laughter. I could hear a lot of people laughing on the other end of the phone. Their reaction made me realize what had happened. They probably told me the wrong meeting time on purpose. By now, everyone including my boss had boarded the plane and gone abroad. Such a childish prank, but I couldn't just laugh it off. Still, it didn't seem necessary to take any action on my part. "If he's not here, you can't stay at this hotel." I knew they'd be told that if they went to the hotel without me. "My name is Ryan, 29 years old. I work for a travel agency. I perform well enough at work, but my boss is tough on me, making the workplace uncomfortable. He seems to dislike my background. Ryan, get this done by today. It's my boss, Mr. Smith. He always imposes work on an intimidating attitude. This one. Yeah. Don't be late, no matter what." I checked the documents given by Mr. Smith, my boss, but the contents were unimaginable. "This proposal isn't progressed at all. It's unreasonable to finish it today." It was a document that needed to be submitted at tomorrow's meeting. Even though it was almost clock-out time today, the document was far from being submittable. "You've got to do it, no matter how unreasonable. Given your age, it should be easy." Mr. Smith spoke loudly and sought agreement from the colleagues around, right? Then the colleagues also laughed in agreement with Mr. Smith. Understood. It's pointless to argue back in this atmosphere. To leave as soon as possible. It's better to get started on the work right away. Listen, never be late. Mr. Smith said so and began tidying up the documents on his desk. Probably he wanted to leave on time, so he pushed it onto me. "We're going out for drinks, guys." Mr. Smith invites his colleagues for drinks. It's seemingly pre-planned. The colleagues also began wrapping up their work. "We're busy, so handle the cleanup, will ya?" My colleague, Thompson, puts a hand on my shoulder. Looking at his desk, I see it's a mess with papers everywhere. He must mean for me to tidy that up. I'm about to complain, but I notice Mr. Smith and the others smirking. They seem to have a sense of superiority, dumping work on me alone. It's a stupid form of harassment. I had circumstances that led me to study abroad for 2 years. My university treated it as a leave of absence, so my graduation was delayed. It was a significant experience for me, but I ended up being 2 years older than my peers. I had explained this to the company, and they hired me with that understanding. But for some reason, Mr. Smith always thought I flunked a year fooling around, no matter how much I explained. He spreads rumors that I'm not serious and treats me unfairly. Moreover, my colleagues influenced by Mr. Smith also treat me poorly. The bulk of this work is done. Just the finishing touches left. I look up from the computer where I've been working overtime, an hour into overtime, and there's no one else on the floor. Most colleagues are probably at that drinking party. Honestly, that party is just to butter up Mr. Smith. There's no benefit in attending, and I don't want to. But the disadvantages of not attending are a real headache. They're probably spreading rumors like Ryan's slow at work. That's why he's doing overtime. Thinking about it makes me feel a bit down. No, I'll finish quickly and head home. No use worrying about the bad-mouthing at the party. Can't do much about it now. Anyway, I'll focus back on the computer to get home soon. You're working hard, Ryan. But then someone calls out to me. Looking up again, I see Ms. Johnson, a colleague, entering the floor. You're working hard too, Johnson. Ms. Johnson is a quiet type of girl. She's attractive and beautiful like a model. Didn't you go to the drinking party, Ms. Johnson? Hard to imagine Mr. Smith wouldn't invite cute Ms. Johnson to the party. I was invited, but I wasn't feeling up to it, so I declined. I see. Are you feeling okay now? Huh? When I ask out of concern, Ms. Johnson looks puzzled. Then she has an expression like a child caught doing mischief. I felt better after talking with you, Ryan. Just kidding. As I'm confused, Miss Johnson laughs merrily. Even though she's a younger colleague, she made my heart skip a beat. I took a short nap in the changing room and felt better. That's good. Take care of yourself. Miss Johnson walks over and sits in someone's chair next to me. Should I help you? Aren't you feeling unwell? I can't let you do that. That's true, but Miss Johnson seems to become upset. Isn't that Mr. Smith's work? He dumped it on me, yeah. Doesn't that make you angry? Seems like Miss Johnson is angry about how I'm being treated. Thanks. You're kind, Miss Johnson. It's not like that. I'm fine. Go home and rest soon. But Miss Johnson still looks unsatisfied. Then, how about getting some coffee? For you and me. I take out money from my wallet and hand it to Johnson. Okay, coffee it is. Ms. Johnson takes the money and runs off down the hallway. Ryan, I've got just the job for you. The next day, while I'm working at my desk, Thompson calls out to me. Thompson, with a nasty grin, hands me a few sheets of paper. What's this job about? We've got a company trip coming up, and you are gonna plan it. Company trip? Come to think of it, I had heard something about that. Looks like you're only getting this kind of work now, huh? What do you mean by that? Like Mr. Smith was saying, you're always working overtime and can't get your work done. So they were talking about that, huh? That's why you're only trusted with stuff like planning a company trip, just odd jobs. Indeed, planning a company trip is like an odd job for internal folks. No clients involved. Maybe it's inevitable to be thought of that way. Anyway, where's the trip going to? Thompson peeks at the company trip papers in my hand. Japan. Okinawa. Really? Awesome. Thompson seems really excited. I've never been to Japan. That's amazing. The hotel we're staying at is super luxurious. No way. You're going too? Yeah. It's for everyone. Everyone's going. Thompson seems thrilled. You're lucky. Not doing much work, but getting to go to Japan thanks to our hard work. I perform better than Thompson, but he doesn't seem to pay attention to those numbers. Then, make a good plan for us, will ya? Yeah, sure. Decided to just respond nonchalantly. No point in arguing. Thompson waves his hand flippantly and quickly leaves, laughing. Ended up with quite a bit of overtime again. It's almost 2 hours past the regular quitting time. Recently, there's been a move to reduce overtime, so everyone usually leaves after about an hour of it. Plus, there are even no overtime days like the other day. So if overtime exceeds 1 hour, the number of people on the floor decreases significantly. Amidst all this, I have to do quite a bit of overtime. That's because, in addition to my regular duties, I have to progress the company trip planning. I've finished my usual tasks, but the company trip planning is still not done. Hey, you're doing overtime again. I'm stretching tiredly when someone calls out from behind. The high-handed voice is Mr. Smith's. Yes. I still got the company trip planning left to do. That's hardly work. Finish this task first. Huh? Mr. Smith hands me a file. Turns out it's a project Mr. Smith is handling. Isn't this a project you're working on, Mr. Smith? Yes. So what? So what? I'm giving you work since you seem idle. You should be appreciated of me. I'm not idle. That's because you're inefficient. Mr. Smith says this forcefully and quickly walks away. He's already ready to leave. Probably planned to dump this on me from the beginning. The remaining colleagues snicker, having seen the exchange. Ryan, always overtime, huh? Working on some secret project. Thompson's taunt comes from a seat far away. I pretend not to hear, but another colleague asks Thompson, "What's this secret project?" Don't know, but heard some rumor he's up to something. What do you mean by something? I don't know, man. So you don't know anything, huh? Thompson and the others were chatting away as if they were in a corner of a bar. I want to sigh at their nonsense chatter, but it's better than them disturbing my work. Despite a bit of distraction, I hurried to finish my work. I'm home, Mom. Sorry I'm late. Exhausted from finishing Mr. Smith's work, I head home. I enter and go to check on my mom in her bedroom. I spoke softly, thinking she was asleep, but it seems she's awake. Welcome back, Ryan. You're awake, Mom. Mom, lying in bed, greets me with a gentle voice. I turn on the light and enter the room. How are you feeling? Good. The helper's been really kind too, trying not to worry me. Mom smiles as best as she can. I don't know the details, but Dad wasn't around when I was growing up. So, Mom raised me all by herself. She raised me without trouble through high school and encouraged me to go to college without worry. Mom intended to pay for my college, but I couldn't let her struggle that much. I managed to get a scholarship and support myself for tuition and living expenses. I thought I could finally ease Mom's burden, but perhaps due to years of strain, Mom fell down and had to be hospitalized. I received the news while I was in my second year of studying abroad. I hurried back home to be with my mom. I borrowed money for hospital bills from distant relatives, promising to repay as soon as I got a job. Mom somewhat recovered and was able to come home. However, she was almost bedridden and needed a helper during the day. I really wanted to be with her more, but I had to work. I couldn't afford to earn less, needing to repay the relatives and my student loan. I'm sorry, it's because of me. You wanted to work abroad, right? Mom apologizes, looking sorry. Indeed, I studied abroad for 2 years because I wanted to work overseas. And I got a job in the US because of my mom's situation. But I was able to go to college thanks to my mom in the first place. Mom, who worked hard for me, has nothing to apologize for. I'm grateful to you, Mom. I have nothing but gratitude. Thank you. I'm proud of how well you've grown up. Mom says this and holds my hand. Her hand feels much weaker than before. I squeeze back, and Mom closes her eyes in relief, eventually drifting off to quiet sleep. It's this late already. I just realize it's past 3 a.m. I look up from the computer, realizing I should sleep soon. Today's overtime was spent tackling the work dumped on me. So, I brought the company trip planning home to work on it. But I got too focused on the work and a lot of time had passed. I have work tomorrow. I need to sleep soon or it'll affect me. Actually, it might already be affecting me. My job is busy enough, and the work dumped on me by the boss is increasing. I feel like I should ask for a reduction in workload, but I'm managing by cutting into my private time. It might be wiser to endure until the situation improves rather than raw more attention from Mr. Smith. I sigh deeply and move away from my desk. Before getting into bed, I check my phone and see a message. It's a message from Ms. Johnson. You seem busy lately. Are you okay? Just a short message like that. No stickers or emojis. It's just straightforward words. It's late, so I didn't feel like replying. But for the first time in a long while, I went to sleep feeling warm inside. I've been working on a company trip planning along with my job, and it's getting into shape. There's still time before the deadline, but it looks like I'll be able to submit it without issue with a bit more work. Just as I was relaxing a bit, someone suddenly spoke to me. I hear the company trip is to Japan. Oh, yes. I turn around to see Mr. Smith standing there with a faint smile. Let me take a look at the itinerary. No, it's not under your jurisdiction, so I can't show it. This is a task directly assigned from higher-ups. Even Mr. Smith can't just easily take a look at it. You're working on something outside our department. It's my duty to check what it is. Well, it's hard to argue when he puts it that way. After some thought, I decided to print and hand over only the parts that seemed okay to show. You should have done this from the first place. As I retrieved the papers from the copier, Mr. Smith snatched them. I see. As expected, it's a lackluster plan. Mr. Smith deliberately makes a snide comment loud enough to be heard. Probably meaningless. I ignore it and continue my work. After a while, a hand is placed on my shoulder. Are you also in charge of the hotel and room assignments? Mr. Smith leans in and asks in a hushed voice. Yes, the hotel arrangements are settled. I'll proceed with the room assignments next. Mr. Smith seems to ponder something for a moment. Then he smirks and says something outrageous. Put me in the same room with one of the young female employees. Excuse me. I ask again, not understanding. I thought I misheard at first, but it was not my misheard. Someone like Johnson would be good. She's pretty and cute, but seems slow. What on earth are you talking about? You know. Can't you understand? Mr. Smith sighs exaggeratedly and slowly reiterates with pressure. I'm saying put Johnson and me in the same room. Just make a mistake. That's impossible. When I refuse, he tightens his grip on my shoulder. If Johnson doesn't say anything, no problem will arise. So your mistake won't be discovered. Mr. Smith lowers his voice even more, pressing the issue with a menacing tone. You can do it, right? His eyes give nothing away about what would happen if I refuse. But my answer is already decided. It's impossible. What? No matter how many times you ask, I'll never change my answer. He stares into my eyes, exerting silent pressure. I was so scared I wanted to run away. My heart felt like it would leap out of my mouth, but I didn't react. All right. Eventually, Mr. Smith walks away, seemingly giving up. Relief is short-lived as he whispers lowly in my ear. You will regret this. Reacting might have provoked a weak response. So, staying silent, Mr. Smith finally leaves slowly. After Mr. Smith's unreasonable demand, things were peaceful for a while. There was no clear harassment or interference in my work. I was working comfortably, but then sudden trouble arose. You don't need to plan a company trip anymore. Suddenly, Mr. Smith calls me out and tells me this. Why is that? When I ask, I get an unbelievable answer. There's a rumor you're personalizing the company trip. That's impossible. I would never do such a thing. You can say anything with words. Mr. Smith twists his mouth, like choosing the places you want to go or trying to fudge the budget. That's a false accusation, and something about you trying to get in the same room with a female employee. It was Mr. Smith who tried to do that, but he must have twisted and spread the story. I tried to argue, but was cut off by an unexpected statement. It was the CEO who decided to remove you. The CEO. Yes. No matter what you say, it'll be impossible to change. I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Mr. Smith smirks triumphantly. Your punishment will be decided later. Until then, continue your work as usual. Understood. If the CEO says so, there's nothing I can do at this stage. I'll have to comply for now. Now, get back to work. I'm on it. Mr. Smith told me forcefully to go back to my desk. Even back at my desk, I couldn't focus on work for a while. Hey, take care of this job, will you? Suddenly, a pile of files is dumped on my desk. Surprised, I see Thompson grinning. This is your job, isn't it? What are you talking about? You're free now that the company trip planning is gone, right? What do you mean? I heard you were removed for misconduct. Mr. Smith said so. I see. That sounds like something Mr. Smith's lackey would say. That's nonsense. If it's nonsense, that would be strange, wouldn't it? Strange how? We were told to take over the trip planning. If there's no problem, that decision wouldn't be made. Thompson says triumphantly. It must be Mr. Smith's misunderstanding. I wonder about that. Thompson sneers and incites the other colleagues on the floor. We're busy with the trip planning. Let's dump the tedious work on Ryan. As Thompson speaks, others join in agreement. Then, one by one, colleagues get up and pile documents on my desk. Make sure you finish all that, okay? Thompson and others laugh as they say this and return to their desks. Then they start chatting, not really working. They just discuss arbitrary ideas about where they want to go and what they want to eat on the company trip. They dump work on others and engage in idle chatter. Hardly what you'd call trip planning. Sigh, I feel like I've become unemployed. If I had done about an hour of overtime, it would be about time to go home. Dressed in my suit, with only a wallet, smartphone, and laptop in my bag, I head home. The reason for this is that I'm pretending to go to the office. I leave home at the same time as always, but instead of taking the train, I go to a fast food restaurant. I spend time in the restaurant pretending to work, then move to the cafe when it's open. I do a little work and spend the rest of the time reading manga. Then, when it's time, I go home as if I had been at work. This situation is due to that issue with Mr. Smith. The punishment given to me by the CEO was to behave myself at home. I was told to stay quiet for a week until the company trip. I could have relaxed at home, but I didn't want to worry my mom, so this happened. I walked down the road in front of my house, feeling like the moon is laughing at me. Just before reaching home, I noticed someone standing at the entrance. I thought it was a postal worker, but it seemed different. Getting closer, I noticed it was a woman in a suit. As I was about to call out, wondering who it was, I realized who it was. Miss Johnson, what are you doing here? Ryan. Leaning against the entrance was Johnson, my colleague. She smiles and runs over when I call out. What's up? I was waiting for you, Ryan. For me? Yes. Miss Johnson seemed somewhat upset. I left work early, but you weren't home, Ryan. Yeah, I went out a bit. Sorry about that. I couldn't possibly say that I was pretending to be at work. So, what brings you here? I wanted to give you this. Johnson pulls out something like a book from her bag. When I take it, it looks like a booklet. It's the booklet for the company trip. It's finished. It was the booklet for the planned company trip. Flipping through it, I see the route is slightly different from what I had planned. You came all this way for this. I was actually supposed to mail it to you, but I decided to bring it myself. Really? Thank you. But I didn't know why she did that. Probably, it would have arrived in time for the trip even if mailed. Is something wrong? Even after I take the booklet, Johnson doesn't seem ready to leave. While I'm thinking about whether to invite her to a cafe, Johnson starts speaking, looking dissatisfied. You're not quitting the company, are you, Ryan? Huh? Mr. Smith has been saying various things. I see. Mr. Smith has been accusing me of personalizing the company trip. Now that I'm not there, he's probably spreading even more unfounded rumors. What Mr. Smith is saying is nonsense. You know that, right? Huh? Ms. Johnson doesn't seem worried that I might be fired for misconduct. Ryan, I know you're not that kind of person. And I know Mr. Smith's been giving you a hard time. Oh, I see. Wondering if you feel like you don't belong at work. That's it, huh? Kinda heartwarming. Johnson, you're so kind. I'm not really kind. Really. If I was truly kind, I should have helped you sooner. Just knowing you care is enough for me. Standing up to Mr. Smith is tough for anyone. I guess so. Johnson looks unconvinced, turning away. I want you to come on the company trip, Ryan. Don't worry, I'll be there. Really? Yeah, I promise. I look into Johnson's big eyes and nod firmly. She smiles with relief. Thanks for everything. Really, I'm grateful. Johnson puffs out her chest playfully. We burst into laughter. I end up laughing along too. We laugh together, but then Johnson waves goodbye. I offer to walk her to the station, but she declines, saying it's close. Instead, she teases me. Don't make your mom worried, okay? From afar, I didn't get it at first. But then I realize, sitting down in dismay, our intercom is next to Mom's bed. If Ms. Johnson rang, Mom would have answered. If they talked, Mom would know I was pretending to go to work. This goes for Ms. Johnson and my mom too. After meeting Ms. Johnson, I spent a relaxing suspension at home. Mom seemed to sense something, but felt relieved after confirming with Ms. Johnson. And then the day of the company trip arrived. Following the itinerary, I arrived at the airport, but no one was there. I checked the itinerary and airport map repeatedly. No mistake on my end. Something must have gone wrong. I brace myself and call Mr. Smith. His reply is unbelievable. We're already in Okinawa. You can go back. Mr. Smith's triumphant voice rings in my head. Everyone's laughing in the background. The meeting time on my itinerary was different. What do you mean? You don't get it. Mr. Smith is hyper, maybe because he is in Okinawa. You're not needed anymore. But I'm supposed to be back to regular work from today. Sure, the CEO might let it slide with just a suspension. But I hate guys who just goofed off in college. My college days and this incident are separate matters. I want people I don't like out of the company. You're trying to privatize the company. The loser barks a lot, huh? Laughter erupts again on the other end of the phone. They must have it on speaker mode, letting everyone hear each other. Just got to the hotel. It's a super fancy luxury place. They seem to have arrived at the hotel. Wanting to rub it in my face, they stayed on speaker as they entered the hotel. The background noise changes, sounding like a hotel lobby. Mr. Smith's thrilled with the luxury hotel. He acts quite haughty during check-in. There's some rustling. Then commotion starts. Mr. Smith raises his voice, his colleagues confused and buzzing. What do you mean we can check in? Mr. Smith's panic voice comes through the speaker. He starts off strong but soon sounds pathetic, almost crying. Then, a clear, decisive voice came through the speaker. If he's not present, you can't stay here. It was the nostalgic voice of the old manager. Ryan, what's this about? From the speaker, I could hear Mr. Smith's cornered voice. His voice lacked the usual intimidation and condescension. That would be expected. After all, he went on the company trip feeling like a boss, only to be denied a stay. It wouldn't be strange for him to desperately seek my help. Judging the timing to be right, I decided to reveal everything. That manager is an acquaintance of mine. No way, it's a super luxury hotel, right? If it's a lie, how do you explain the current situation? What? Mr. Smith could only grunt in frustration. I wanted to work abroad, so I met various people during my studies. I can't believe it. And I got to know the hotel owner, who runs various businesses, including hotels. You're kidding. The owner liked me and started giving me big jobs. Of course, I planned to continue working abroad, but then my mom fell, and I returned to US. So that's why you joined our company. Yes. The owner told me that he wished we could have worked together. The owner tried to keep me until the end, but as a student, I didn't feel I deserved his generosity. But then, the CEO approached me about a top-secret project I was assigned to. A top-secret project. It's about the company's overseas expansion. I've heard something about that. The rumors got a bit out of hand, so it was disguised as a company trip. So, you mean? Exactly that. I heard Mr. Smith collapse on the other end of the phone. I continued without caring about his reaction. It's not a company trip. It's for scouting and networking for business expansion. Really. If I, the person in charge, don't go, nothing will progress. Mr. Smith muttered in frustration, as if in a last act of defiance. But the CEO put you on suspension because of incompetent people like you who could jeopardize the project. Incompetent, you say. That's why the CEO let it slide for a while. The important setups were already done. I can't believe this. By the way, what are you planning to do about this? Huh? You interfered with a major project and even upset the manager of our business partner. Well, the CEO seemed troubled by how to deal with you. Probably didn't think you were this incompetent. What are you so close with the CEO? The top secret project is a big gamble for the company. The CEO and I are like a fate community. You'd be lucky to just get fired. This is a matter of compensation for damages. Fired, damages, oh no. For a while, Mr. Smith's voice, like delirium, leaked from the speaker. Eventually, the complaints from everyone grew louder, and Mr. Smith's voice turned into crying. We've arrived, Mom. Ending our journey through the skies, we descended the airplane steps. Mr. Smith was demoted over the incident in Okinawa. He continued to work for a while but soon left, perhaps due to discomfort. By the way, the CEO handled the dealings with the manager in my absence. I rejoined them after rebooking my flight, and the business deal was successfully concluded. Afterward, I worked hard to repay the CEO's kindness. And once the overseas expansion was on track, the owner offered to poach me. The owner was very moved that I, who had returned to the US, came to Japan to see him again. I don't want to miss a second miracle. Such a pleasant thing, he said. The CEO, who had been good to me, even supported my job change. So, I accepted the poaching offer and started working in Japan. Under the owner. This is Japan, huh? My first time here. Mom landed at the airport in Okinawa, and she was amazed at its beautiful ocean. Actually, Mom and Miss Johnson seemed to get along well. Miss Johnson often came to our house and talked with Mom. That seemed so enjoyable that Mom's health quickly improved. Then she even started saying things like, I want to play with my future grandkids. Perhaps that became her motivation to continue rehabilitation, and now she has recovered enough to walk. Furthermore, considering my worries about Mom's health, she accompanied me to Japan. How's your health? I'm feeling exceptionally well. Sorry for having you come all this way. I vented the lump in my heart. The owner arranged a spacious house and a housekeeper for us. I'm sure Mom will live more comfortably than she did in US. But I worried it must have been hard for her to come overseas with her health concerns. What are you talking about? Mom said with smile. Seeing Ryan's dreams come true up close, there's nothing happier than that. Mom said, smiling like that. Thank you, Mom. I said it, full of all the gratitude I've felt till now. Instead of responding, Mom happily looked towards the terminal. Oh, let's hurry over there. Ms. Johnson was there, waving at us. She had arrived in Japan earlier and was waiting for us. I was headhunted by the owner's company, but for now, I'm in charge of negotiations with my former company. The CEO arranged for Ms. Johnson to be the liaison with the former company. My face breaks into a smile around these meddlesome but kind people. And so, I began a new path in a new place.